Guy in Israel writes to me, recently I encountered a ground loop that would not go away unless I used a humbuster of some sort. And then I decided to try some hacking. And I took a cheap RCA interlink and physically expanded by opening up the ground contacts on the plug that surrounded the signal pin. In this way, I had only the signal going from the culprit device to the preamplifier, and the hum and the buzz was gone, while I was still able to play music. My question is, if the music plays fine without the ground of the RCA, why is the ground needed in the first place? Well, you know, we sometimes, it's funny, I do the same thing. I'll make these great conclusions based on a piece of evidence, like, I pulled the ground off, it still works. Yeah, that's because you were grounded somewhere else. Okay, so let's talk about ground. Ground is not required, but in the instance that you have, it was. So let me explain. What we need to pass a signal is a difference. We need to have a path for the current to go, right? So in a balance cable, we'll have two wires, one where the signal is rising. At the same time, here, the signal is falling. Now, between the two, there's a difference, and so current will flow, and we get audio. In a single-ended RCA cable, there's only one signal, as you noticed, but it has to go somewhere. It has to have a path to a lower point, to a difference point, in order for the current to flow, and that happens to be ground. So, for example, you could just take a wire between the hot RCA output of your preamp and the little hole in the RCA, kind of like what you did there on your amplifier, hook it up with a wire, and as long as the two preamp and the amps were grounded through your 110 volt plug, you know, that third prong plug, it's going to work just fine. Why? Well, because in the circuit, you already have a ground. You don't need it so much on that shield. It's just a convenient way to keep the cable quiet. And if you were to take a single-ended input and just plug a wire in with no other reference, let's say you had a battery-operated piece of, I don't know, a Walkman, and you only took the hot lead of the Walkman and plugged it into an amplifier, you wouldn't get any signal flow. There'd be nowhere for it to go to complete the loop and pass current into the amplifier. So you were most likely grounded with your plugs or somewhere else through the chassis. Okay? All right. Thanks. Good question. I know that can get confusing, but that's the answer. You gotta have ground. All right. Thanks.